We're here with Kevin Miller, Director of Generation RX. Kevin, please tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a filmmaker from Cleveland, Ohio. I've been producing films and writing since I was a very young guy. More in the journalistic side. I was trained as a journalist from as early as high school. And kind of things that I gravitated to are really, again, humanistic stories.
The film is about the drugging of our children, and that includes the pharmaceutical industry likely having undue influence over governments, which should regulate the ill effects of any products put onto our market. So what are the solutions doctors are prescribing to parents right now, and what should parents know to ask their doctors? Tell us a bit about the solutions currently prescribed by the medical industry.
Well, you mean their solutions? Well, their solutions are, you break them down into disorders, quote unquote. I mean, ADHD, it's the stimulant drugs. Methylphenidate is the generic name. Concerta, Adderall, Ritalin are the trade names, if you will. And that is the, quote, solution that the orthodoxy sees as the solution for ADHD or ADD. And so in terms of bipolar medicines, for the condition of bipolar, those are antipsychotic drugs, like Zyprexa. Depression and for anxiety, even in other conditions, they're obviously recommending Zoloft and Paxil and even Prozac as the solution that they see.
And yeah, one of the side effects of Prozac is depression. So how do they get away with saying one of the side effects of this drug is making your problem worse?
Well, in the U.S., of course, it's different than Canada, although Canada is now clamoring I think Rogers and a couple of the cable companies are clamoring to allow pharmaceutical advertising on television in Canada, like the U.S. Well, why is that? There are tens of billions of dollars to be made by big media for if we allow that to happen in Canada. So that's one of the reasons why they get away with it. They have a certain disclaimer wrapped into television and radio ads that mutes the side effects, so almost backhandedly dismisses them, even though they're very, very serious side effects. So essentially what has happened, especially in psychiatric medicines, is that there's a double standard that's been created and that's been allowed to exist over the last 15 or 20 years in particular. And that is that at least if we can question all of the pharmaceutical drugs, but let's say that there's a medicine, an antibiotic. Again, we know what the antibiotic does. Millions of people have taken them. Millions of people have been tested on various antibiotics. We know what antibiotics do. For psychiatry, for these psychiatric medications, the science is completely shoddy. It is alarmingly weak. And for someone who is not a medical doctor and not even a medical researcher, the things that I uncovered and put into Generation RX are, I think, knock most of their parents backwards out of their seats.
You're approaching this as a journalist who's investigating the work of other medical doctors and researchers.
That's right, and medical bodies. So, for example, there is not only the American Medical Association, but there's a APA, the American Psychiatric Association, and there's CHAD, Children and Adults Against ADD. There's all of these pharma-backed groups that are putting out all of this media that's dominating the coverage. So what I did in Generation RX was really tell the rest of the story, because the big dollar pharma is getting their way on the evening news. There are groups that they're backing with tens of millions of dollars. CHAD and other groups of this ilk are further putting PR out through the schools and to parent organizations about the safety of their drugs and the efficacy of their drugs. And so, you know, this is really the first, or among the first times, that a documentary has weighed in on the true science behind these medicines
Absent sound science, and with billions of dollars at their disposal, the drug companies introduced many campaigns aimed specifically at school children. Here they planted their seeds by using the most basic of childhood communication tools, the coloring book.
They have this little scenario of the kid whose friend moves away, and now Johnny's sad because his friend moved away, and Mom notices that Johnny's sad, and so Mom takes him to the doctor, and the doctor finds out that Johnny's been sad for days now and even weeks, and that he's going through some problems that the doctor may be able to help him with. So they put him on the whole story is to get the kid on a drug just because a friend moved away. Well, friends move away, dogs die, family members die. I mean, if you don't develop the coping skills as a child to take on the bigger, more real-life stresses and problems, it scares me to death to think about what this next generation is going to be like when they're faced with very real, serious problems. I don't think they're going to be able to handle it.
And in the case of one beautiful little girl, her name is Candace Downing, who she hung herself in her parents' garage an hour after sitting on her daddy's lap watching Animal Planet on TV and laughing. And there's a number of reasons why this one in particular is so compelling, but she had been to the psychiatrist the day before. Her mother had begged the psychiatrist to not put her on an antidepressant, in this case Zoloft. The psychiatrist said, well, it's a small dose, don't worry about it. And you know, the thing about Candace is, as a producer, you become emotionally attached to all the people you interview and meet. And in the case of Candace Downing, I received about 300 or 400 photographs. And I swear to you, as I'm sitting here, that in every single photograph, she had the most beautiful, authentic, genuine smile. This was not a depressed child. And they gave her this not because she was depressed. They gave her the Zoloft off-label for anxiety because she had a few anxieties about taking exams at school. You know, there's a pyramid here at work in terms of media. You're seeing a lot of that happen here in Canada as well. The major networks are all driven by ad dollars that emanate from the pharmaceutical and/or health and/or insurance industries, and so there is at vested interest because you can no longer associate or disassociate the dollars that CBS Evening News gets to keep their 30-minute newscast on the air every single night with the fact that literally 95% of the ads that are funding that are for drug companies. Because you know, any salesman or any executive in a multinational corporation will tell you that the thing is driven by dollars. So you know, we're not trying to create a system where you know, through government decree or something, that these issues like mine that I'm raising in Generation RX are forced out there to the general public. But it is my opinion that if you have something like public broadcasting in the United States or CBC here or what have you, that you need to there's a responsibility to the general public that well done documentaries should be getting distribution through those channels because it's taxpayer supported. What's happening now is that it's really not. Obviously, I would love to have hundreds of millions of people seeing Generation RX. I believe they'd be well served by seeing it. Every single fact in the film is correct, and it's meticulously researched. And believe you me, I was in the bowels of the National Archives in the United States of America, in the libraries of Congress, went to places that you cannot imagine to find some of these things and find the verification. In some cases, went through court cases and found documents that had never been released to the public about Eli Lilly and about testimony by paid experts of the drug industry and unveiled their conflicts of interest. We need to educate ourselves. We need to share information. We need to step outside of our comfort zones. We need to be a little less polite. when we're speaking to our political leaders and saying, oh, by the way, we'll throw you guys out on your bums if you don't do what it is that we ask.